it was the middle of summer. All the guys and I were at the lake, and um, I was driving this pontoon, and the guys were like, "Go this way or go that way or do this," or and I was kind of I just got frustrated because there was nothing I was doing. Nothing that I was doing was right, and so I was like, "Enough! I'm not driving anymore." I sat down. You guys can
Like,
drive.
I've had enough of this.
I'm done with this. And we all go to lunch, and we were going to Zorba's. And then one of the guys are like, "Hey,
Zorba's is a pizza place for y'all who are not in like Minnesota.
it's good.
It is. It's a cool spot.
Yeah, it's good." One of the guys are like, "Dude, you good?" Jimmy was like, "Lucas, you good?"
So they noticed that something was off.
Yeah, because when I get upset, and this is not a good habit, I know it's on, and I'm working on it. I just shut down.
Hmm.
I'm just quiet, I guess. I'm just quiet. So yeah, it's what do you do? And that's something I think that's something so small though too.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
but what do you do when your friends just make you upset or hurt you? And
Mm-hmm.
some friends actually do say things that I mean, words can be painful sometimes too.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that's but I'm saying like I'm just giving you a small example, but
Yeah.
like still like my response to those guys and our response when someone that we're close with or the actions that they're doing to affect us in a way that man like it hurts or it's
Yeah.
confusing or it's upsetting or
Yeah,
yeah,
in
what
that
do you
case,
do?
they obviously weren't intentionally trying to bother you or frustrate you. They just there's a mix of things, and there's a range of impact, right? You could have something like that where it's kind of like incidentally you were frustrated and hurt by what was taking place.
Yeah.
There wasn't maliciousness. You might be someone who's had a really close friend who's done something that wasn't intentional about hurting you, but was like deeply hurtful. Like I think of um, there's times that I can think of in particular in like middle school, high school, where I had friends who were like they would go out and do something and like hanging out and stuff, and I would hear about it, and it was kind of like, oh, I thought I was a part of that group of friends, and I didn't get invited, and like that was hurtful to me. Or I've shared the story before of being at camp with a couple of the two guys who I would have said at that stage in my life were my best friends, and they were basically like, "Screw you, we don't want anything to do with you." And ended up having some resolution at the end of that time. But that's hard, especially, it's one thing to have a conversation about, oh, you hurt me with a coworker or, kind of distant friends. Another thing if it's a really close friend or really close friends. So in this episode, we wanted to talk about like practically, man, how do you tell your best friend they hurt you? Because you don't want to damage that relationship. You don't want to imply that they are a bad person or anything like that. Maybe there certainly can be instances in life where the person you thought was your best friend turns out to not be the kind of person who is your best friend.
Yeah.
But I think what I want to talk about here is more like, how do you handle it when just hurt happens, right? The reality, we talk about this frequently in episodes, that if you're friends with someone else for an extended period of time, because of the reality of sin in the world, there's going to be hurt, there's going to be offense, that's going to happen, and you need to be able to repair that rupture for a relationship to last.
Yeah. As you get closer to each other, as you really just get comfortable with someone else, sometimes we can get lazy with our words. We can get we can be prideful in a way, like, hey, this is how I want it, and like it's like just it becomes like a sibling sometimes, but it comes down to sin, and it comes down or what we desire and what our flesh wants to, and it comes down to what the world is telling us to. So it's like, and the lies of the enemy. It's like, no, what the enemy's going to try to do is not unify us. To the man, he's going after marriages. He's going to go after real relationships for sure. So yeah, it's going to happen. And if it hasn't happened to you and you think you're close, then I don't know. I would question if that's real friendship too.
Yeah. So why not just stay quiet about it? Let's say you got a friend who's hurt you and maybe it's a repeated thing. Why not just stay quiet about it and just kind of be like, well, okay, I'll just take the hit.
Because if taking the hit means I am going to think less of them, or I'm going to put them at this spot that's not them and I'm attacking their character. If that's taking a hit is, then that's not right at all.
Yeah.
And that's not loving at all. And what happens is it actually just hurts you more and hurts the relationship between you two by taking the hit. Stuff like that. If a friend hurts you, don't take the hit. I would say here's what I mean. They say something small. They say something dumb. If you can let it go, let it go. But if you can't, if you're driving to work, if you're working, if you are just can't get out of your head, no, you need to have that conversation.
Yeah, if it's something that you keep coming back to, it's 3-4 days later and you're still like frustrated about it, or it's coming up, like you're saying, just randomly throughout your day, that's probably a sign that it's something that there needs to be a conversation.
Yeah, and it's like walking on eggshells too. If you don't say anything and they say something again that's similar to that, or they do something and you just blow up and like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like stuff like that happens too, because that wasn't the real problem. It's actually, there was something behind that. And it always starts from that one thing, and it just can lead to something that it doesn't need to lead to.
Yeah. Yeah. There are, right. As Christians, we're called to give grace and to expect the best of other people. So in friendships, right, the reality is there's going to be stuff where you're like, oh, I understand you didn't mean that way. And if you can just let that go, give the other person grace, forgive them, and move on, awesome. But if it's something that's becoming a repeated pattern, or like we were just talking about, something that is stuck in your mind and you're not moving past it, that's the time when you need to say, hey, I know we're really good friends. We need to have a conversation about this. And I think
one thing I would say about the other two, it's like, when you also do that though, you're also helping them to not do that to someone else.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So
yeah, and it's gonna strengthen your friendship ultimately if you have those hard conversations. But I think the first place you need to do is you need to evaluate in like, is this something I can move on from? If it's something you can just let go, say, all right, God, I'm forgiving them. I'm giving this to you. Moving on. Awesome. Do that. That's the starting place of true friendship as followers of Jesus, is as you have received grace and mercy, so give it. But like we've already said, if you can't move past it, then you need to have a conversation with them. And I think the first step in doing that is you need to identify what's the outcome I want to have of this conversation. Because if you're not, what tends to happen when you're going into an emotionally charged conversation, which if there's hurt involved, usually there's potential for those emotions to come back up. And the conversation, you don't want it to turn into a full-blown argument. You don't want it to go into other issues. So I think ahead of time, you should, in your mind and heart, say, this is the thing I want to communicate to them. I want to tell my friend or my friends, let's use the story that you're talking about. I want to say, hey guys, I'm frustrated right now. I'll get over it. But I just got really annoyed at how y'all were telling me what to do. And I felt like you didn't think that I was capable of driving the boat, whatever the heart issue might be.
That is so funny. As I think about it right now, like something that small, it's like, but it was real though.
Yeah. And oftentimes it's those things that like, you look at it, you're like, oh, I should be able to get over that. Like, that should be a small thing. If it doesn't, even if you think it should be a small thing, but it keeps coming up over and over again in your heart, that's probably means it's not actually a small thing. So it needs to be dealt with. And you need to go into a conversation with that friend or with those friends and be clear about, here's what I'm wanting to communicate to them. I think that's the first step.
And as you check your posture, you're not there to hurt them too.
Yeah.
It's there to tell them that, hey, like, man, sometimes they don't know. And it took one friend to say, hey, like, if I'm doing this here with you, I'm also doing this in other areas. Hey, I'm going to bring this up. and I'm not gonna be afraid to bring it up, but I don't want to hurt you. But here's what when you do this thing, here's how it affects others. Here's how it affected me when you did it to me.
Yep.
Um, and just naming it.
Yeah.
But you want to, again, going back, checking your posture, the outcome of like, man, you're there to love them and you're there to, man, like help them too. So it's like, how do you, even if they hurt you, just start with the motive of love.
Yes. Yeah. That's important. I say this, the second thing you need to do is you need to kind of set the time and tone. Some stuff, small issues might be the kind of thing where you're hanging out and be like, hey, by the way, man, yesterday this happened and I was a little bit bugged by that and I haven't been able to get it off my mind. So just wanted to say like this was something I was frustrated about.
And sometimes too, you can do it as soon as they say that thing or do that thing too.
Yeah. It could be right in that moment.
It's like, hey, yeah, don't do that. Because when you do that, here's what that, like,
yep.
Sometimes sleeping on it doesn't, sleeping on it, I don't know if I'm saying, I don't know, I want to make sure I'm saying this carefully. Like, sleeping on being bitter towards what the friend and you're thinking about it, like, that doesn't help you at all. So don't sleep on it.
Yeah, there's times where it needs to be addressed right away.
Yeah.
So I'll give an example of this, of the setting the time and tone. In college, I lived with two other guys. One of the guys he loved to play music. His room was right next to mine in the apartment, and he would play his guitar at I went to bed relatively early because I'm just early riser. He would wake me up. There was a period of time where he was waking me up over and over again, playing his guitar excessively loud. You're like, you don't need it that loud to be able to hear yourself playing guitar at 1 a.m., 2 a.m.
1 a.m.
Yeah. So there had been a couple times where I had made the kind of passing comments like, "Hey man, like your guitar was a little bit loud last night." And initially it was kind of just jokingly trying to get him to change it without having to directly address it. Then there was a couple more times where I just kind of made slightly more direct but just passing comments. So after it continued happening, it was like, okay, we're really good friends. We live together. I need to actually have a conversation with him so that he feels like this is serious. So I was actually like, hey man, I got something I need to talk to you about. Would right now be a good time? And I don't remember whether he was like, hey, yes, we can talk about that right now, or if it ended up needing to happen later. But by saying a statement like, hey, I have something we need to talk about, that immediately was a trigger to him to say, okay, this is something I need to pay attention to. Whereas the previous conversations kind of in passing we had, it was the kind of thing where he was like, oh, not maliciously, but he was like, okay, that's not a big deal because of the way I had communicated it, the tone I had used, the context I had said it in. It just implied and said, this is not a big deal, when it actually was a big deal for me because he was preventing me from getting sleep. So I needed to frame that conversation, set the time and the tone in a way that said, this is something that's important. I need you to pay attention. And we were able to have a conversation. He was basically like, oh, I guess I didn't even think about that. I didn't even think about the fact that my loud guitar would keep someone else from sleeping. And in my mind, I was like, really? But I'd known him long enough to know, yes, that is the kind of thing that he would not think about because he's someone who's very, not super conscious of how his actions impact other people. Not because he's a bad person, but just lots of factors. So I think that's important to set the time and the tone. Tangentially, related to that, if you're going to have an important conversation, if you want to confront a friend or tell them they hurt you, do not do it via text message. Don't do it via Facebook Messenger or whatever. Have that conversation in a way where they can hear your voice or even better yet, see your face. And ideally in person, live. Sometimes it might have to be, via FaceTime, maybe via a video messenger app, but do it where they can hear your voice and see your face ideally.
Texting, emailing, all that. Do not do that. Just a perfect example. Yesterday, one of our clients he sent this email, and one of our employees is like, this guy does not appreciate our work. And just the email did sound pretty rough though too. So I was like, just call him.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'll give him a call. I gave him a call. It was not that big of a deal at all.
Mm-hmm.
Just by him hearing, hey, I saw this. Just wanted to kind of talk to you before we sent a reply or anything like that. Could you clarify this for me? Like, it's like, oh yeah, can I just get this instead of that? Like, it was just super chill at all. And it's like, but sometimes we can assume just by how they put the word and how they phrased it, oh, they're really upset.
Yeah. Anything in text is so open to interpretation.
Yes.
Whereas when you're talking with someone and you're face to face, or even if you're just voice to voice via the phone, hearing the pitch of their voice, the tone that they're using, that gives you so much more ability to interpret what is actually attempting to be said. So, yeah.
Yeah. If someone, like, perfect example was like, hey, I just didn't like how that looked. And they sent you a text, I didn't like how that looked. Like, you could take that tone totally different when someone you're talking on the phone, or when someone
that could be a casual, like, I wasn't a huge fan of that, or like, that was the stupidest thing ever.
Yeah, it's like, I could have done this myself. It's like,
Yep.
So do not text them, do not, or Snapchat, do not do any of that.
Yeah. Similarly, in another thing in the way of like, how can you communicate those things? If you're talking with your friend about time to tell them how they hurt you, do it in person, ideally, voice to voice, face to face, and frame it with, this is my side of the story, right? Because you don't know the intent of that other person, right? Just like the business example you're giving. He might have just shot off that message. He was like, oh, that's right, I need to send this message. I have to shoot it off quick. His intent was not like, I want to be a harsh critic of what was going on there. So in conversation with that friend, when you're telling them tell them how you felt in that scenario, because you don't know their intent in that scenario. So don't say, you hurt me, you made me, you said this, and kind of imply that they're a bad person. Instead, frame that conversation using I statements. Say like, man, I felt like you didn't value me when you didn't invite me, or I felt left out when you guys went out to dinner and you didn't include me. Frame it with I statements rather than you statements.
I heard it this way, and here's how I felt hearing that.
Yes. Yeah.
So, and ask a question, dude. Did you mean it that way?
Yeah. I think that's the important next point is like, share your side of the story, frame it in I statements, and be open and willing to hear their side of the story. Mm-hmm. If you say, man, I was really hurt when you guys didn't include me when you went out to dinner, you need to leave space and time to hear their side of the story. And that side of the story might be, oh man, I'm so sorry. Like I just totally didn't even think about, this restaurant we've gone to, and you've mentioned in the past that you didn't really like it. So I just assumed that you wouldn't want to come. You need to be open to hearing their side of the story and leave space in the conversation for that, rather than just feeling like you can drop your bomb and that's the end of it.
Yeah. How do you move on? Yeah. After this, how do you move on?
Yeah, I think, and that's the final step, man. You probably need to be clear about the response that you want, or what's the step in response. It may be as simple as them saying, if you're good friends, probably you're going to share like, oh man, this thing you did hurt me. And I go, oh man, I'm so sorry. Like I totally did not mean that. I'm sorry that I said that. Then the next thing you need to respond with, right? As Christians, we're called to forgive. If someone's asking for forgiveness, we need to be quick to verbally forgive and then commit to within our hearts to forgive. There may be other instances, though, particularly like in the conversation I was talking about with my roommate where he was playing guitar. The conversation we had, I was clear. I was like, hey, man, can you not play your guitar in your room after whatever the time was? I think I usually went to bed at like 10 p.m., 10:30 p.m. It's like, hey, can you not play your guitar? Like if you want to wear headphones, fine. But if you could not do that after like 10:30 p.m., that'd be great. That was giving him a clear path to action. So he clearly knew that what I wanted to see happen. And he was like, all right, that's fine, man. Like I can totally do that. He just hadn't even thought about it at being an issue. There may be instances where your friend comes back to you and says, well, I can't really do that because blah, blah, blah. And then you're going to have a conversation about that. But what you don't want to do is have that conversation about the issue and not be clear about the results, the after the fact response that you want to see. So if I had talked with my friend and said, hey man, like it bugs me that you're playing guitar late at night and it's keeping me awake. And he was like, oh man, I'm so sorry. And then 3 days later, he's back doing it again. That, yes, as an individual, he should have the intuitiveness to be like, oh, okay, he said he doesn't like it. I should stop doing it. But there's also a sense in which I have the responsibility to be clear about what I'm asking of that other person.
Sure. But sometimes too, I believe, Ben, that we ask for crazy stuff.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, chill out. There are people like, don't ever do that again. And here's how I want you to do it from now on. It's like, okay, like, don't be demanding, on anything. It's like, if they hurt you, it's like, hey, just do me a favor. Don't say that again to me. All right. Because when you say that, here's how I respond. And if you keep doing that, I'm going to remove myself from situations like that too. You can do that. But like, yeah, it can be that simple. But sometimes we want to structure it. Like, that was important though too. Yeah. How you handle it with your friend. But sometimes we ask for things like, geez, chill out, but yeah, I just wanted to kind of highlight that.
Yeah. And there may need to be, I think the part of giving grace to people is realizing that just because you had one conversation about it does not necessarily mean it's all instantly become their top priorities. Like for my friend, there was definitely times after that where he had said, yeah, man, I won't play guitar after 10:30 or whatever the time was. It was a long time ago, so I don't remember the exact time. But there was definitely times after that where he did play later than that and where I had to go knock on his door and say, hey, man, I'm heading to bed. Can you please put on headphones or whatever? And in that moment, I could have been angry, be like, I told you, like we've had this conversation about it. But instead, that's a lack of grace and understanding. Instead, just realize, man, that even if they're your best friend, they don't know what's going on in your head. And you're probably going to have multiple conversations about an issue. And you should be at peace with that. Just realize that's the reality. It doesn't mean they don't care about you. It doesn't mean they're not your friend. It just means they're not in your brain and they don't know your priorities. And you need to use your voice to communicate those priorities in a kind and gracious way.
Amen. That's it right there. That's it right there. You don't know, or they don't know what's going on in your head. So, man, always lead with grace. I think there is such thing as grace and there is such thing as truth, and you need both of them. But always, first breath you should take is grace.
Yeah. So hopefully this was helpful to you guys. If you, just to say again, we've said this multiple times, but if you're friends with someone, there's going to be hurt. There's going to be conflict and tension or moments where you feel like, oh, why did they do that? Don't be afraid. You need to be able to communicate with the person that you're close with.
Yeah. One of the things that happened after we got to Zorbus, Jimmy asked that question, hey, you good? I was like, I'm just annoyed, man. And his response right away, I mean, he didn't even miss a beat. Hey, man, I'm sorry. I wanted to be mad. I wanted to hold on to it. And there's this part of me, and there's a part of us sometimes, even with the small things, we want them to pay for something they did. You have to remember, it's been paid for. It's done. So, yeah, I couldn't stay there. We moved forward. I was like, yeah, I forgive you, man. And we got in the car, and then we just kept moving forward,
Yeah.
So, but
that's a real friendship.
That's it. Yeah. But I've done that to him too. And it just goes back and forth sometimes. But all right, the closer you get, it's not always going to be sunshine and rainbows. Keep looking at the Lord. Keep pursuing him together. Keep spurring each other on. Keep encouraging each other. And when there's times of conflict, you don't have to stay in it. Don't let that thing define you guys. Let those things refine you and just grow towards Jesus together. Conflict is not bad. Conflict is only bad when you stay in it.
Yeah, that's a good word.
So,
well, thanks for joining us, friends. Hopefully, if this has been helpful to you, feel free to share it. Follow, like, subscribe. If it's beneficial, we do every week. We're coming out with more conversations about what does real friendship look like as followers of Jesus. So there's lots more good stuff like this on the docket. We got some lots of fun episodes in the pipeline that are coming up. So would love to have you join us on the journey.
love you, friends. We'll see you next week. Peace.
Hey friend, thanks for listening. We're all about equipping you to pursue real friendships. You were not created to be alone because life is just better with real friends. Let's get started.